Hi everybody, my name's Traci from Excel Ace and I'm here with this session for the executive support admin chat, and I'm very excited because I've tried to come up with some new subjects that might not have been covered in any previous sessions that I've done. So what we're going to look at today is something called styles, which these are pretty much lesser used techniques that I find that not many people tend to use in Excel. So everything we're going to cover today is about formatting, and these are sort of alternatives to any formatting techniques you're already using. So we're going to cover styles, so we're going to look at templates, and we're also going to look at conditional formatting, but also using emojis on your spreadsheet. So some hopefully brand new techniques that you may not have seen before, and hopefully we'll make them nice and simple and straightforward. Okay, so as per, please go find me on LinkedIn and follow me, and contact me directly if you have any questions at all. And Excel is my favourite subject, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to get straight in by sharing my screen. So bear with me 1 second. So if I share the screen. Okay, here we go. So this data that we're looking at currently it's a list of sales essentially. So we've got a column for the date, we've got a sales reference number. Oh no, I think it's a customer number, isn't it? A customer name. Maybe it is a sales reference number. I can't remember. We've got a quantity value, we've got a unit price, and then one multiplied by the other is the total sales value. And then we've got the name of the salesperson. But the problem with this data is that right now it looks rubbish. And this is my big bugbear with most spreadsheets, is that they tend to look rubbish. So I would straight away, I'd just go and format this data, make it look a bit more easy to read. So the first thing I'd do is I'd take the header row, and I would probably center those headings. I would, of course, bold them so that they stand out different to the rest of the data. I'd probably make the font size a bit bigger as well. Do the big A there. I'd probably make the row a bit bigger as well, so the row is a chunkier row. What else would I do? I'd probably wrap text so that you can see salesperson there. It looks like that word is now on 2 rows, but it's actually still on the 1 row. And I'd probably give it some borders. I could use this for borders, but I think that's incredibly difficult because it just gets very wordy. So for me, I much prefer, having highlighted these cells, right-click your mouse, go into Format Cells, and then you've got a Borders tab here. So here we start by choosing a style. So I'll choose that thick border there, that will do, and choosing a colour for that border. I'll leave it black for now, that's fine. And then clicking on the lines where you want the border to go. So I could either click up there and then down there, or let me take them back off again. Sometimes it's difficult to get exactly on in the right place to put the border in. So if I click on that image there, that is the top border, and this one is the bottom one. So I can just apply them that way. So if I click OK, now my data straight away looks better than it did a couple of minutes ago, doesn't it? It's still not brilliant because this data is still difficult to read, so I'd need to format some of this as well. So the date column, I would format those, so highlight those cells, right click, format cells, into number, into the date option, I would format that as maybe this option, so it'd look like this. But I still have to work out that 04 is April, which I'm quite good at these days, but I'd much rather have this option because it gives me the whole word of the month. Saves me having to work anything out manually. And we all know I'm pretty lazy. So I'd go for this option. I'll click OK. Oh, we always get these hashtags. So then I just double click to make that column wider so we can actually see the full text in that column. Okay, so we've got the date. I'll probably center those as well, or even maybe make them align to the left. That's good. We've got the number column. I would probably center those because that looks like it's a reference number. Customer is fine. Quantities, again, I'd probably center those so that they stand out. We've got a negative here. So a little bugbear of mine is that I like to see negative numbers in brackets and in red font. So what I do with those, so I'd highlight them all, right click, format cells. It's currently formatted to the category of general, so I could change it to a number. So I'll change it to number, and it's going to include decimals. Now, as you can see, none of them have got decimals, so I'd just reduce that down to 0 decimals because it's not relevant. Then with the negative numbers, we can choose here that we'll have them in red font. Okay, so if I click OK to that, it then applies. So at least they're in red, but at the moment they're not yet in brackets. Okay, so again, I'm going to go into Format Cells. now that I've selected a number format that's got everything else, so the formatting is exactly as I want it, it's just that I want the negative numbers in brackets as well. Unfortunately, there's no option here for negative, so I'd have to go into custom. Because I've chosen a format that it's already got the red colour in, as soon as I go to custom, you get all these weird and wonderful looking ones. This top one here in this box, this is the currently selected format. So because I'd already chosen a format that had the red colour on the negative, that's where you can see the red has appeared here. Now, this on its own looks a bit weird and wonderful. So what I want to point out to you, and this is really tiny, I'm sorry, but in the middle, we have a semicolon. That semicolon represents the middle of this format. So everything on the left of that semicolon, so all of that's how it's going to format a positive number. Everything on the right of the colon is how it's going to format a negative number. So basically, with the positive number, it's literally going to put no decimals. So we don't need to change anything there. With the negative number, and it's got the word red in those square brackets, and that indicates it's going to change the font colour to red. So if we wanted it in blue, we could just change that word to blue. And there you can see, there's your ugly minus sign, that's the negative sign. So I can literally just delete that and put an open bracket, and then at the end, I could just put a close bracket. It's also got a blank space at the end, which is what this little dash signifies. So I'm going to take that out as well. Okay, so I've changed that format so that actually the negative numbers are going to be in brackets and in red font. So if we click OK there we go. You can see now I've got the negative numbers in brackets. Yay, happy. Unit price, these are currencies. So again, I would right click format cells. I'd go into currency. I'm in the UK, so I would change that to a pound symbol. Obviously, you've got all your different options here for whatever country you might be in. You can put decimals in or not. You might choose not to include them because there aren't any decimals. None of them have got any pence in, but we could leave it with decimals on if need be. Your unit price is never going to have a negative number because we'll never give refunds to sales. So this is kind of irrelevant. So I'd leave that as it is at this point. Click OK. Okay, so those are all our unit prices. These values, these are one multiplied by the other, so there's a formula in there. So obviously where there's a negative quantity, it's going to give us a negative value. So with these, I would format these almost in the same way as I would with the numbers, with the brackets and the red colour. So I'd right click, format cells, and I'd go into currency first, and I'd format it. In this instance, we don't need any decimals because there aren't any. So I'd format it with no decimal places, with the pound symbol and with a red colour, and I'd click OK. So it's almost done it, it's just not done the negative sign, but I've formatted it that way. So now when I go into the custom format, it's already got the red included. So here we don't need to change anything on the positive, it's got the pound sign and it's got no decimals. On the negative side, there's our ugly minus sign. So you can take that out and put an open bracket in, and at the end, put a close bracket and click OK. Brilliant. So there's our 4,000 in brackets. Yay. Okay, so that is how I've now formatted that sheet to make it sort of bearable. Okay, so obviously all of those techniques are just basic formatting, which you're probably already familiar with. So we could use those ways. However, there are quicker ways that we could start using. Okay, and they are to use styles. So let me just take some cells here. In fact, let me just. Okay, so for example, if in the home ribbon here, if you go into the style section, you've got cell styles. I think because I'm presenting this screen, it's a little bit squished up, but normally that would have its own section in Excel. So in cell styles, you'd see something similar to this. So what's happening here is, in fact, let me just move across because I want to take that cell there. So if I put Traci in there, just put my name in there. If I select that cell, when I go into cell styles, if I hover over bad, it's basically going to apply that formatting to this cell. It's going to put the pink background in the red font. If we use this one, it's going to put the green background in the dark green font. So these are just descriptions that Excel has given these specific styles that you can apply if you choose to. It won't put any of this text in. If I go for that one, check cell, that's calculation. These are just suggestions, really. as to how you could use some of these different formatting options. And these are all predefined for you. So if you want to apply any of these, you literally just select. So if I click on this one, left click on that. So I was just hovering over there and it was showing you the examples. As soon as you left click, it applies it to the cell. Okay. So that's what your styles do. If I had Traci in there as well, I could select that one, go back into cell styles and choose the green. So the point of these cell styles is they are just very quick ways to apply different formattings. So I could choose that. You don't even need anything in the cell. You can literally just apply whichever options you wanted to. So these cell styles have been around since the dot as well, by the way. Now, I don't really even use them very often, but looking at them and how good they are, it's kind of, I think it's something that I'm going to start trying to explore a little bit more because they are brilliant. Now, I don't necessarily like all these. We all have our own styles, don't we? So whether you like these or not, doesn't matter. These are the predetermined list, but we have here a new cell style. So basically we can create our own cell styles. So with that, if I select a cell, so let me put Traci in there again. So I select that cell. If I go into cell styles and choose new cell style, then basically I can give it a name. So I could call this Traci as well. And then I could choose how to format. So this then gives me a list of what I've selected. So this is all just set to the default settings for every single cell, because at the moment we haven't selected anything. So if I go into format, it takes me to my normal format cells menu. I could format that as, well, general's fine. I could align it center and center. I could choose font bold and font size 12. I could put borders on, that's to choose that border and do an outline. I could choose a fill and make it that blue fill. I could actually go back and change the font color to white as well. So we could do all these different elements or just a couple, whatever we wanted, and I'll click OK. So my style name is now called Traci, and the number is going to be general because it didn't change that one. The alignment is going to be horizontal center and vertical center aligned. The font is going to be font 12 and bold, and the border, left, right, top, bottom borders. So you can tell it gives us all the different breakdown of what that formatting style is. If I click OK, it will apply. Oh, so sorry, at this point, all I've done is I've actually saved a new font style. It hasn't actually applied to that cell, but now, so these are all the ones we had before. These are all the predetermined ones. This box up here is going to be all the customized ones that I've created. So that one's now called Traci. So if I want to apply that, I can literally select it. I can select that cell and also apply that custom format to that cell as well. So on that basis, what I could do with everything I've just done here, so if this is the normal format style I would apply to values, I could create my own style for that, so that next time I don't need to go in and recreate that custom format. Now, the brilliant news is that if I select a cell that I've already formatted, what I can do is go into cell styles, go into new cell style. Now, this currently has given me this number format because I've already selected it. So because I've already put it in, what I could do is I could call this TW currency. I'm only putting my initials in so that it'll stand out. So TW currency. I don't want to do anything else to it. I'll just click OK. So now in my cell styles, there's my different options. So the TW currency, all I've done in that one is I've changed the number format. I've not changed any of the background colours or the font colours or the size or anything. I've literally just applied the number formatting. This one I might also want to create a format for. So in cell styles, I would go into new cell style and I'd call this one TW number, because the other one was currency. It's got the pound sign in. This one doesn't. It's just the actual number in the brackets. The other interesting thing about this quantity one is that it's aligned centrally as well. So I've centered horizontally the text. So that's also what this new style will do. So I'll click OK on there. This format is useful as well. So I might go into cell style, choose a new cell style, and I'll call that TW. Okay, and you can see there's your formats as well that has been selected. Okay. And as well with these headers, because they've got quite a lot of formatting on, if I go cell style, and I only need to choose one cell at a time, and I could call this TW header, And you can see that the number format's not changed, the alignment has been changed, the font has been changed, the borders, there's no fill. I don't think that's it, but I could put colour on if I wanted, but I haven't. So click OK. Okay, so the beauty now in Cell Styles, I've got all these different options. So it basically means that the next time I have a sheet with all this data on, I don't need to manually select the headers and apply and go and put all the different things on. And I don't need to remember what to do with them all as well. What I can do next time, so here's a sheet I made earlier, so Styles 2 here. So this is just a copy of that data. What I can do now, I've got all my cell styles set up, is I could literally select all the headers and just go to Cell Styles and choose TW header. Apply all of those things by pressing one button. I could select all those date formats into Cell Styles and choose TW date and make the column bigger. I could choose number and in fact quantity as well, couldn't I? Highlight both of those. Cell Styles, TW number. Okay, oh, I haven't got the minus in here, have I? I think I've got different numbers. Let's put minus 100 there and you'll see you get the brackets. Unit price, I don't think I've included this. In fact, let's do both of these together. Cell Styles, TW currency. Okay, that unit price, I don't think I'd set one up, but I'd centered that as well. So using those styles then in that instance was actually far quicker, wasn't it, than manually applying all those different formatting options like we did before. So Cell Styles are fab. They're really, really good. I do like them. I like them a lot. One of the drawbacks with your Cell Styles, though, is that if I was to, if I'm this sheet here, and so bear in mind in Cell Styles, we've got this customized Traci one, we've got all of these different formats as well. These can be applied in any sheet on this whole file. So whichever sheet that you're in, you can apply them. The problem is that if I move or copy into a new book and create a copy and click OK, so I've now got book 2 with this style sheet in. If we go into Cell Styles, oh, it's included one. I don't know why it's included that one, but none of the others. That's a bit strange. But usually your Cell Styles don't copy over into new sheets. So it kind of makes it difficult. So once you've created them once, if we go back to this file, if I saved a copy of this file and called it alt formatting techniques 2, all those Cell Styles will be saved in there. So it's almost a case of, if you're going to use them, you might be best to have almost a template file that you use. So save a copy of this. Next time you want to use those same formatting options, just to open up your template file. Okay, which actually leads me beautifully into my next subject, which is on templates. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll just get rid of this book 2 because we don't need that anymore. Or do we? I tell you what, we'll leave it there for now because I think we do need it. So I'm just going to get rid of all this lot. So what we could do with this file is we could save this and everybody use this as a template file. So next time, so we could delete all of the data out of here. We could delete all of that and delete all of this here. And we could say next time, just open this file and fill in the data here. And that could just be then the template that gets used. And I think, to be fair, this is what people tend to do with Excel. Now, the risk of doing it that way is that the risk is we'll open the template file, we'll enter all our data in here, and then we'll press save. And then we've overwritten the template file. So then we have to go and open it, save a copy of it, and then delete all the data out again. So it starts becoming a bit of a faff, okay? Now, an alternative way to do it is, so I've just got this in book 2, so let me delete all of this from here. So this file currently it doesn't contain I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me get rid of this one. Don't save that. So I'm going to save a copy of this file. So I'm going to save this as, I'm going to call it version 2, that'll do. Okay, and I'm going to delete these sheets out of it. So this one file now just contains the one sheet that has the template in, if you like. We should also find, yeah, it's saved in the Cell Styles as well. Okay, so this file is now going to become my template. But rather than just have an Excel file that we'd open and risk sort of overwriting, what we can do is if we go to File and Save As, when we go to Browse to find out where we're going to save it to, you can save as type. And here it defaults to an Excel workbook, but we're going to save it as an actual template. So if you look down this list, halfway down, you've got the option here of an Excel template. So the file extension for that, instead of XLSX, which is an Excel workbook, will end up with an XLTX extension, okay, by using Excel templates. So I just use that, and bear in mind as well, look where it's going to save it to. So it literally is saving it into the Documents folder and to a Custom Office Templates folder. Okay, so it literally is saving it onto this machine on the C drive, into the Documents folder, Custom Office Templates. So I just click Save for that. Okay, so there's my Excel file. If I close that now, what's going to happen now when I go to open a file? So I go to open, if I go to new, sorry, if I go into personal, there is this template file. Okay, so because it's saved in the Office Custom Templates, that is the file. So what happens now is that Alt Formatting Techniques Data 2, if I double click that to open it, it opens it in Excel, but it's put a number 1 at the end of the file name. So it basically means that the template that's saved is an .xltx file, and that's not what we've opened. It's actually opened a copy of that template as an XLSX file, and it's changed the file name and put a 1 at the end so that we don't ever overwrite that template. But what's happened now is we've got all that formatting applied. We've still got all our custom formats all created there in our cell styles, and now we can just go ahead and put our dates in. 1st January 22, we can just fill in that file as it is. If I go to File, Save, it's telling me to save as. So automatically, because this is a brand new file, it will never overwrite that the template file. So that is basically a massive advantage of using a template file versus just having an Excel file that you use as a template, that there's no risk of overwriting it, which is fab. Probably the biggest drawback is that it's saved to your machine, so it then becomes difficult to use kind of centrally if you've got a whole team trying to use these templates. But there's no reason why you can't sort of have a template and save the same one onto everyone's machine. It's probably worth doing that in the long run, to be fair. Okay, now just while we're on the subject of templates, when you go to new, when you're in Office, bear in mind as well, as soon as you've opened it once, it appears up here at the top. It's almost pinned. So you've got your blank workbook, you've got your created templates, and then you've got any others that you've pinned up here with a little pin. And these come from, in the Office, these are all suggestions, and these are all templates that Microsoft have written for us, which are cool. So, and you can look for all these different types. If you wanted to find a budget template, if you click on budget, it narrows down all the templates. It's going to show you to these that are all related to budgets. So some of these look really cool. And you can open them up and just adapt them for however you need. If I just go back there, you can look at personal ones, and it will give you premium personal monthly budgets, premium weekly chore schedule if you wanted to be very organised, a mileage tracker, a photo family tree. So there's loads of them that are just sat here waiting for you to pick them up and use them. If you wanted something else, you can literally click into that box and search for online templates. A really useful one, I mean, you've got calendars and all kinds of things here. And a really useful one that everyone asks me about is Gantt project planner charts. Okay, so I've saved this here, but it will be in here. If you search for Gantt, I think it should come up. There it is, Gantt project planner. But I've pinned mine because I use it so much. But if I just double click that, so with any of these, you double click them, and it will give you a little preview of what it's going to do. It'll tell you what it'll do over here, and then you can click create. And it is opened because it's a template. It's opened as an Excel file, and it's put a 1 at the end. And this now, I can do save as and save this onto my machine and then adapt it as necessary. The brilliant thing about this is it literally uses a combination of data validation, Conditional formatting and formulas, I think, is pretty much it. So if you look at the conditional formatting, manage rules for this worksheet, they're all your rules. So if you don't like those colours, you can just go into the conditional formatting and tweak the colours. So I won't go into any more detail of this planner, but you can literally just amend all of these bits. And it's a great start. It's a great start for. So that's plan start at period 1. If I change that to 10, press enter, automatically all these colours change. So I won't go into any more detail on what that does, but do please go and have a little look through these templates because they're so cool. So I completely digress. I shall get off that. I'll close that one. I won't save that template. Templates are really, really fab. Let me just open this again. Oh, I didn't save this for the styles, did I? It doesn't matter because it's done with styles and templates now. We're going to move on to another sheet that here's one I made earlier. So and we're going to look at conditional formatting. So what we've got here is a list of different names and their scores out of 100 in a recent test that they did. Okay, I don't know what the test was, but all the names begin with B. That was hard work trying to find those. But basically, what we do with this data, because right now it doesn't really jump out which ones are the high scorers, which ones are the low scorers. Well, I can see the two quite clearly. So what we might do is we might use conditional formatting. So if I highlight all of these cells, so conditional formatting is very straightforward. In the home ribbon, 2/3 the way along, you've got conditional formats. So click on here. Here I could use these different options. So these top 5 here, these are all shortcuts on how to put in your conditional formatting rules. I'm going to bypass all of them, go straight into a new rule. So all of these are shortcuts to this. So if I go to a new rule, I'm going to start at the very beginning. This is how you put conditional formatting in. So we'd start by selecting a rule type. So before I put the rule in, let me talk to you about what the rules are going to be. So as you can see, we have a variation of different scores. And what I'm going to do is I want to include, if the score is less than 50, then I want it to have a cross. If the score is greater than 50, but less than 75, I want it to have an exclamation mark. And if it is greater than 75, I want it to have a tick, okay? So what I'm going to use is this rule type, format all cells based on their values. And so you've got all these different rule types, by the way. Have a little mooch through these, they're brilliant. If you click on this one, if you click on any of them, you'll see that the rule description down at the bottom changes. So you can change, using a different rule type changes how you will apply the rule, basically. So the rule type we're going to use now is format all cells based on their values. The rule description here looks a little bit difficult because you've got a minimum and a maximum, but the important thing to note is the format style that's been selected. Now this defaults to a 2-colour scale, that's why it's got these items. If I click on the arrow, I can change it to an icon set, which is where you'll find your ticks and crosses. So choose icon set, all of this at the bottom changes, so it's brilliant. So I've chosen an icon set. I can then change my icon style. So click on the arrow, there's all my list. So I'm going to go for ticks and crosses, okay? Now, choosing ticks and crosses applies them here. So this is how we're going to display the icon according to these rules down here at the bottom. So this one is going to start by putting a green tick. So our green tick we want when the value is greater than 75. So here I'm going to say, is it greater or equal to? It defaults to 67 as a percent. And that means as a percent of the column total, which is a bit rubbish to be fair. So I'm going to switch this. Top tip is, if you change your value first and then you change your type, by changing the type, it deletes a number. So always change the type first. So I will go for a number, and my number is going to be 75. Okay, so I'm going to have a green tick when the value is greater or equal to 75 as a number. When I click on this yellow exclamation mark, you'll see that this part of the rule will automatically update based on the green rules. So click on there, you'll see the yellow rule is going to be applied when it's less than 75 and greater or equal to, and again, it's currently 33 as a percent, so I'm going to switch that to a number, and I'm going to make that 50. Okay, and then the red cross, when I click on here, it's automatically going to update that rule based on the yellow rule. So it's automatically going to give us the red cross when the value is less than 50. So if I click OK on that, ta-da, there's all my lovely ticks and crosses. Every single one has got a tick and a cross. Okay, so the brilliant thing about the conditional formatting is that it makes it really visual which ones have got ticks and crosses and exclamation marks. So these are ones to watch. The crosses are the ones who have failed, if you like, and the ticks are the passes. The beauty of having conditional formatting is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, when you use your filters, we click on here, we can filter by colour, but the colour also includes your cell icon. Also, when you're doing a sort, you can sort by the cell icon as well, so they are brilliant. Okay, now years ago, if I just go into conditional formatting menu, back in 2007, when Microsoft brought out the 2007 version of Excel, that's when they introduced all of these new conditional formatting options. So we've got data bars, we've got colour scales, we had icons, and all of these gorgeous icons, these arrows, the traffic lights, the ticks and crosses, the flags. In 2010, they brought out these little gold stars, and that was brand new in 2010. We're now in 2022, and almost on a weekly, if not daily basis, I check this list of pictures to see if we've got any new ones. And it really upsets me that in the last 12 years, none. We haven't had a single new picture. So that really upsets me. And I did get quite excited when those gold stars came out. And I don't think I've ever really used them for real. But they are pretty cool and I want to use them. So it upsets me that they've not brought anything new out. And then I got to thinking, well, what would you like? What do you want? What new pictures would you like? And I thought, I'd really like to have a smiley face and a crying face and, you know, a mutual face. That would be okay. Instead of ticks and crosses, it's a little bit more sort of modern, isn't it? So I then got to thinking, well, I wonder whether I could make up my own. Because, and this is a massive top, if no one's shown you this before, this is genius. So I'm just going to go over here. If you press on your keyboard, the Windows key, so it's normally around the bottom left next to the space bar. So hold down the Windows key and press full stop. And you get this beautiful box here, which is all of your emojis. And honestly, every single one is here. So this one is your, I think this is your recently used, isn't it? This one is all of your face pictures. And look, you've even got your scroll bar down the side. So look, you've got every single one. Anything you've got on your phone is on here. Brilliant. Okay. You've also got your faces, and you've even got your skin tones as well. It's so good. So basically, if I go back to the recently used, from here I can select an emoji. So I select that one and put it into that cell. There's my sad face. If I do that again, so select another cell and do Windows key and full stop, here's my emoji box. I'm going to choose my mutual face and then press enter. And then I'm going to use another cell and Windows key and full stop. And I'm going to do my smiley face. Okay, and there we go. Now, you may have noticed when I pull up the emojis window, all these lovely emojis are in full colour until we put them into Excel. Now, I'm using Excel Desktop, and it doesn't include any colour on Excel Desktop, sadly. If you use Excel Online, you get the colours. Okay, so it does really upset me that they haven't put colours in, but hey ho, hopefully they'll include them for us at some point. Okay, so what I've now got is I've got 3 cells that have got my 3 emojis that I want. So what I'm going to do for each of the cells, I'm going to create a named range for each cell. So I don't know whether you remember about name ranges. Name ranges are genius. I tell everyone to use them and then nobody does, which really upsets me. But what name ranges do is, instead of that cell being cell G2, I'm going to give it a name of sad. I'm going to give that one a name of neutral and that one a name of happy. So going forward, I can use those names within formulas instead of having to refer to the actual cell references and then use dollars and things like that. So I'm going to select that cell, I'm going to click into the name box, and I'm going to type in the word sad and press enter. There we go. That is now my name range for that cell. That one, I'm going to click in and I'm going to call that neutral and just press enter. And this one is happy. So again, click into the name box and type in happy and press enter. Okay, now your names can be as long or as short as you want. They can include letters and numbers, uppercase and lowercase, but they cannot include any characters. The only character you can really get away with is the underscore, not the dash, the underscore. Okay, you can't use spaces, and you also can't start your name range with a number either. Oh, and last thing, your name range cannot be the same as a cell reference. So I couldn't call that one G2, for example, because that is that cell. Okay. So now that I've got my, and as well, by the way, if you forget where your name ranges are, if you click on the arrow to the right of this box, it'll give you a list of these are your current name ranges. And if you select one, so I select happy from there, from that list, it will go and highlight the cell that is the happy cell. Okay. So don't worry about forgetting when you go to sleep at night. When you wake up the next day, you can always find out where they are again. Okay, just out of interest as well, in the formulas tab, you've got name manager here, and again that gives us a lovely list of each one and tells us exactly what they refer to, and we can change them. We can click edit, we can change the names, we can do whatever we want with those. Okay, so now that I've got my emojis, unfortunately I can't include them within the function called conditional formatting, so I can't include them here. But what I can do with them is in this column, I could include an if formula that looks at the value in this cell and will return in this column one of these emojis. So this isn't as perfect as conditional formatting, but it's a workaround if you wanted it. Okay. So in this cell here, I'm going to put in the first if formula. So this is going to be a nested if formula. So it's going to be if and an open bracket. So if this value, so I don't know whether you've done nested if formulas before, but you always start with either the highest number or the lowest number and work either up or down. You can't kind of start in the middle. So my if formula is going to start with, I'll start with the higher number. So if B73 is greater than or equal to 75, because that is the higher range, wasn't it? Then we want it to include our name range called happy. Now, and this is where we put happy instead of cell I2. Now, once you've created name ranges, another brilliant reason for using a name range is that you can press F3 on the keyboard while you're editing the cell, and it'll give you a lovely list of all of our name ranges. So you don't have to remember how they're all spelled and spell them correctly. You can literally just select off the list. So I'm going to choose happy and click OK. And that's included there. So if B3, the value in B3 is equal or greater than 75, then put happy. I'm then going to put a comma and I'm going to start my next if formula. So if B3 is greater or equal to 50, then put, and I'm going to do F3 again, neutral. Okay, well, that's kind of a bit wonky, hasn't it? Let's look at it up here for now. I'll show you it again in a second. So what this is now doing, the way an if formula works is it says if, so it always starts at the beginning, obviously, and it will say if B3 is greater or equal to 75, and the result of that will give the formula a true or a false. So in this instance, it's looking at 68, sorry. So is that greater or equal to 75? Is it true or false? Well, it's false. So if it was true, it would return the happy emoji and not ask any more questions in the whole formula. In this instance, it asks that question, gets false. So what it does is it ignores this because that's the result for true, and it'll move on and ask the next question. So by the sheer fact it's asking this next question means it knows the value is capped at 75, it knows it's less than 75. So that's why within a nested if formula, we don't have to ask, is it between 50 and 75? We just say, is it greater than 50 then? Because it knows it's on a cap of 75. Okay. So if it is greater than 50 and less than 75, then it's going to return neutral. Same vein here, that if it asks if it's greater than 50 and it gets false, it will know automatically it's less than 50. So in that case, we don't need to ask that third question of is it less than 50, because it will automatically know. By the fact it gets that part of the formula, it will know it's less than 50 automatically. So I can literally just put in there the sad emoji, which is basically saying if none of the above, return the sad emoji. And I can do a close bracket on the end, two close brackets actually, so we've got two if questions. And I'll press enter. And there we go, there's our neutral, our little neutral face, because the value is between 50 and 75. Yes. If I was to change that to 86, automatically we get the little happy face. And if we change it back to 2, we get the crying face. Okay, let me put it back to 60. Okay, so that's how fab. We've now got emojis. I can just double click the little blobby on the bottom right of that cell, double click that with your left mouse, and it pulls that formula into the entire column. Okay, so unfortunately, when we click on the filter by colour, it doesn't recognise there are any colours or icons because we've actually included these as emojis. So we can't filter by them in the same way we could filter by colour. We can still choose the happy, the sad, or the crying face. We can still manually filter. We just don't get this brilliant filter by colour where we could choose the actual physical picture. So that's another little drawback of using the emojis. But you know, I've used happy, sad, and smile in there. If I just go back to the little emoji window, we could use love hearts, we could use broccolis, we could use dogs, we could use flowers, we could literally, the world is your oyster. We could put cars in, we could put scooters, we could put trains, you name it, it's in there. So there could well be there's more emojis that are more relevant for what you're trying to show. You know, we could use like a cap or a bottle of champagne or something if somebody's passed, you know, and maybe a book if they haven't because they've got to go back to the books. Who knows what? But there's lots of options there, and using these formulas is a brilliant way to include them. Okay, let me just make that bit bigger. If I press F2 there, so our formula here, we're checking if it's greater than 75. If it is, put happy. If it's not, it'll check if it's greater than 50, but less than 75. And if it's true, it'll put the neutral image. And if none of the above, it will put the sad. Okay, so that's using the if formula, which works brilliant. Now, what we could also do, another option of, so we've put these emojis in, but we've had to use a nested if formula. Okay, if you're not comfortable with using a nested if, there's an alternative way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a formula that equals B3. It's basically going to repeat these numbers in that column. So I'll just click that all the way down. Okay, so it's repeated the numbers in here. Now what we can apply instead of having a nested if is I could apply to these cells a custom format. So if I just right click format cells number. So do you remember before we went to custom? I'm just going to scroll right down to the bottom. Oh, I didn't save the file, did I? This is where we use the custom file to put the brackets in for the negative numbers. But this is what custom is used for. It's used for creating your own formats. Okay, so what we can do is we could apply custom formats that, based on the values in these cells, will apply the happy, sad, or smiley emoji. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight all the cells because it's going to apply to all of them. I'm going to right click format cells. I'm going to go into custom. It's currently, this is sample, and this is because it's chosen general, because it's not, there's no format applied to these cells yet. So I'm going to delete that, all that general, and I'm going to start creating. Oh, in fact, before I do this, sorry, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to take all the emojis. So I'm just going to put them all into one cell. So happy, smiley, neutral, and sad. That will do. Okay, so what I'm then going to do is I'm going to copy. So they're all in that cell. Okay, I'm going to highlight all the emojis and do copy. And I'm going to, because I've copied them now, I'm going to paste them into this custom format because it's an easier way to do it. Okay, so I've highlighted all the cells, right click, format cells, custom format, and then in type here, I'm literally just going to paste those emojis in for now. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the very beginning of that box, and I'm going to start typing in what my custom format is. So my custom format is going to be, and it always starts with those square brackets like we saw with the colour before. So start with square brackets and open square bracket. So is it in there? Hang on. I'm going to open square brackets. So the first rule is going to be if it's greater than 75, and then we'll do a close square bracket because that is the condition. So these are so tiny, I always struggle to be able to see, and I have a bit of a habit of pressing shift when I press the square bracket. So actually it puts the curly bracket in, and then the format doesn't like it. And it's not that clear to see because this is so tiny. Okay, so in square brackets, that is my criteria. So the criteria is if it's greater than 75. We then, literally, we need to put speech marks around the emoji that we want to see. So I've literally said if it's greater than 75, and then put the speech marks around the smiley emoji. Okay, I will then put in a semicolon, and I will start my second criteria. Okay, so my second criteria is going to be, again, in square brackets, and it's going to be if it's greater than 50 and a close square brackets, and then an open speech marks, and then just click in and put my close speech marks against the second emoji. I'll then put in another semicolon, and then an open speech marks and a closed speech marks, because again, like with the nested if, we didn't have to put in the third rule, because if all else fails, if it's none of the above, it's going to be less than 50, so it doesn't need anything else. Okay, so what you'll find here, the sample it's giving, it applies to this first cell, so it's going to return this neutral face because it's linked to 68. So what we're now going to do is press OK. So interestingly, if we look at that cell, all that's in there is a link to that number, 68. Okay, what I've done is I've applied, and you can see these formats are identical. Oh, that one's not working because it's greater or equal, and this one isn't equal, is it? Let me just make that 51. That'll make them the same. There we go. Okay, so they are identical, but using the custom format means we've saved ourselves having to put that big scary nested if formula in. What also happens is if I was to change, if I take that formula out and I just put in 100 in there, it automatically changes the emoji. If I put in 2 in there, it will automatically change it because I've applied that custom format. So I've said that this cell is to be formatted in this way, which applies these rules. So the format will be based on the value that's in the cell. Okay, so that's a really cool way. What I could also do with this, funnily enough, is go into cell styles and give it a new cell style. And you can see that's the number format that's been applied, and I could call it emoji and click OK. So that going forward, if I had a number in there, 65, I could literally go to the cell styles and apply that custom format, which will automatically apply my smiley face. So almost, although we can't filter by colour, and although we haven't got the colours in the background of it, I almost forgive it because it's so cool. Okay, but it's a really great way to apply them. One other thing that colour does bug me, that we can't use the colour, but another thing that we could do to it is, again, if I right click format cells, if we go into the custom format, what we could do is adapt the custom format. So what we'd do is we could highlight. So if I start at the very beginning, just before so you've got in the square brackets the criteria, so the greater than 75. If I put another open bracket and type the word green in there and a closed square bracket, I think I had shift press then. Let me do it again. Take that one out. Let's try that one again. So literally, you've got the green in the square bracket, you've got the criteria in the square bracket, and then you've got in the speech marks what to return. So I'm basically saying use the green colour if it's greater than 75 and put that emoji. Here I would put in yellow and a closed square bracket, and in this one I would literally just enter it and put red. Put capital in there. Okay, so what I've done here is I've included the colours. If I click OK, I only selected that cell, so now I'd have to select all of these. And in fact, what I'm going to do, tell you what we'll do, we will give that a new cell style, and I'm going to call it emoji colour. Emoji colour. Okay, so now with these, I can literally highlight them, cell styles, and choose emoji colour. Okay, so I've now applied those emojis. So the colours are rubbish in comparison to what they should be, but at least now the colour stands out as well. It may actually be more relevant to make the crying face blue or whatever is relevant, but you know, we can, with the custom format, we can still, we can still apply some colour by just putting it in the colours into the square brackets. Okay, so it's not great, but it's better than just having it black and white, I guess. Okay, so that is how to use emojis. But also, custom formats are really, really useful. So if you have ever tried to into Excel type in a temperature, so let's say we've got a load of temperatures typed in this cell. We've got 18, 19, 20, 21. If we wanted to say that that's degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit, then what we might need to do is 18. Anybody know how to put in the degrees symbol? The good news is I'm going to show you. So what we can do is we can, whilst we're editing the cell, if we hold down the Alt button, so hold down Alt and then type 0176, that is the code, and that puts in that little degree symbol. Okay, so I'm just going to do that again. So I'm editing the cell, or you cannot edit the cell. So in this cell here, I've just selected, hold down Alt and keep Alt pressed, and then type the code 0176. And it inputs that symbol for you, which is the degree symbol. If you know about shortcuts, obviously you can go to insert, and then you've got symbols here, and then you can go to symbols, and then you can find, and you've got all kinds of different types of special characters, and you can change these normal text, change all these different options. You've got a big massive scroll bar here, but they're kind of hard to find, aren't they? So you've got your copyright symbol and your pound, and so you can find things that way. But top tip for you is hold down Alt and 0176. Okay, so what I could do is I could, with that cell there, then put in a capital C. So that would be the format that I'd want to apply to a cell with centigrade. So again, I could give that a cell style. I could call that Celsius. Click OK. I can then highlight all of these cells and apply that cell style, Celsius. Oh, hang on a second. Wait. No. Okay, what I need to do with these is I need to create a custom format first. Yeah, sorry. So highlight all of these, right click, custom format cells into custom formats. And here I would have hashtag for any number, 2 hashtags maybe, and then Alt 0176, and then a big C. Okay, so basically what I'm saying here, the hashtags represent any value. So if I click OK, okay, so that now is applying that format. So whatever the number is going to follow in it, it's going to put the degree centigrade. Okay, so again, if I highlight that one, we'll go to cell styles. So this one I set up before, it didn't work, did it? So what you can do is you can right click on any of these and you can do delete. Okay, I can then select that one, cell styles, Celsius one's gone. I can do new cell style and I can call it Celsius. Okay, so that going forward, if that was, I've applied it to all those cells, haven't I already? Okay, let's say if I go into right click format cells, if I go into custom formats, what I can do is I can change that C to an F. So this is a new format I'm creating because the degree centigrade one's there. So I'm changing that to an F. I can then highlight all of these. I can right click format cells. I can go into custom and there's my Fahrenheit at the bottom. Okay. So obviously you can go into format cells. It might have been quicker if I had selected a cell style for Fahrenheit, which I could have done, and I could have applied it that way, but either way works. Okay, but the custom format is really, really powerful, and that's how you create them. And you could use the custom formats as well for creating different formats for measurement. So if something was squared or cubed, you know, meter squared, those kinds of things. If you're trying to do measurements, or you could do it to include inches or stone or pounds or whatever it might be. So if you are working a lot where you need to put in these numbers, it's often quite an easier way to create your formatting. Okay, so hopefully a lot of these things that we've covered today will be kind of new, that you might not have seen before. If you've got any questions on them or any need any advice on where to apply them and how to use them, please do don't hesitate to get in touch. But I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.